The last time that my family went tent camping, we decided that it would be the last time that my family went tent camping. This may have had something to do with the fact that our charcoal was so old that it wouldn't light, that I was unable to get a fire going, and that it rained over the night and we had to settle for canned tuna to eat for dinner and breakfast. But if you think about it, for thousands of years, humans lived in tents, in temporary dwellings. In fact, many still do throughout the world today. But I've grown accustomed to a solid house and indoor plumbing and electricity. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Apostle Paul drew on that image of a solid house versus a tent to bring comfort to the church in Corinth. These are his words from his second letter to the Corinthians. Now we know if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven not built by human hands. Meanwhile we groan, longing to be clothed with our heavenly dwelling, because when we are clothed, we will not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, we groan and are burdened, because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Now it is God who has made us for this very purpose, and has given us his Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Therefore, we are always confident, and know that as long as we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord, but we live by faith and not by sight. We are confident, I say, and would prefer to be away from the body and at home with the Lord. So we make it our goal to please him, whether we are at home in the body or away from him. Preacher and novelist Frederick Buechner talks about our deep-seated longing for home. He says in each of us there's the deep desire, sometimes based on an actual place, and sometimes just on a place we've created in our imagination, but a place where we are safe, a place where we belong, a place where, like they said in the old Cheers television show, everybody knows your name. We all have that longing for a place where there is no fear of rejection, no fear of being cast out. Part of why we long for a better place is the nagging feeling that there is something missing here, that there's something wrong, something, in fact many things, are just not right. We know this world as it is now is not what it was made to be. We can see clearly how life is marred by sickness and by sin and by death. Every funeral we attend reminds us that this world is not the way it was created. And that's why our longing for home is so deep and so visceral. It's an image that comes up over and over again in art and literature. It's in Cosette's song in the musical Les Miserables. I know a place where no one's lost. I know a place where no one cries. Crying at all is not allowed, not in my castle on a cloud. It's in the song of the priest in Man of La Mancha. To each his Dulcinea, that he alone can name. To each a secret hiding place where he can find that haunting face to light his secret flame. Yet how lovely life would seem if every man could weave a dream to keep him from despair. It's that dream that we hold deep within us. The dream of the undiscovered country. The dream of our truest home. The dream that is more substantial than any waking moment. Our longing for home is one of the surest signs of the truth of God's Word. We were made for more than this. We were made for a better place. We long for a place that is beyond the pain and suffering of this world, beyond the valley of the shadow of death that we walk through now. In our heart of hearts, we know that there is something better, something more permanent. As the writer in Ecclesiastes, the ancient book of wisdom, put it, God has set eternity in the hearts of men, yet they cannot fathom what God has done from beginning to end. And that's why Paul writes to the church in Corinth, and to you and me today, and tells us that life is a journey, and that life doesn't end at the grave. We travel now in tents in this temporary world, but we are heading for the life to come. For while we are in this tent, we groan and are burdened, because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Now it is God who has made us for this very purpose, has given us his Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Earlier in the same letter he writes, "We have this treasure in jars of clay, to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from man. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. We always carry around in our bodies the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our lives." We have good reason to groan, reason to complain and to wonder and to question. But we also need to remember that it's only temporary. We live in tents now, in jars of clay. But one day, we will live in mansions. On the night before his own death, Jesus made this promise to his disciples: "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I am going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, so that you can be where I am." If Nancy could speak to you today. Nancy? Jane. Oh, where Nancy? If Jane could speak to you today, and Nancy too, for that matter, Jane would tell you that the promise of Jesus is one that you can believe. That the promise of Jesus is real. And she would tell you to look forward to that home. The home that you long for in the deepest part of yourself really does exist.